Once celebrated as a mosaic of cultures, Canada stood as the world's model for unity in diversity. But today that mosaic is cracking. Immigration, globalization, and shifting values have redrawn the lines of what it means to be Canadian. Is multiculturalism still the country's greatest strength, or has it become a silent source of division? By the end of this video, you'll understand the hidden forces reshaping Canada's identity and what the future holds for this diverse nation under one flag. Because this isn't just about history. It's about who we are and who we're becoming. Chapter 1. The Promise of the Canadian Dream. Canada's story begins not in 1867, but long before, in the voices of the first peoples who walked its forests, fished its rivers, and lived by laws of balance, long before any European ship touched its shores. The First Nations, Inuit and Métis, built communities guided by stewardship and harmony, their stories written in wind, water, and snow. When European settlers arrived in the 1600s, the collision of worlds began, one driven by conquest, the other by coexistence. The early fur trade brought cooperation, but also cultural disruption. Indigenous systems of governance, rich and democratic in their own way, became overshadowed by colonial expansion. Yet their spirit endured, the same spirit that later inspired Canada's ideals of inclusion and mutual respect. By Confederation in 1867, the dream was set: to build a country where people from many origins could call one land home. Canada's founders envisioned unity through diversity, a vision that would later evolve into the official policy of multiculturalism, a word now deeply tied to the nation's soul. Fast forward to the 20th century. Waves of immigration from Ireland, Italy, China, and Eastern Europe reshaped the nation's cultural DNA. The dream was simple: peace, prosperity, and freedom. But behind the dream was struggle. Discrimination, exclusion laws, and the Chinese head tax scarred early immigrant experiences. Still, the Canadian idea grew stronger. By the time of World War II, Canada had become a land that fought for human rights abroad, while slowly learning to practice them at home. The Canadian dream wasn't about perfection, it was about promise. The promise that no matter where you were born, your story could belong here. Chapter 2. Immigration. A nation built by newcomers. In 2025, Canada stands as one of the most diverse nations on Earth. Nearly 1 in 4 Canadians, 23.5%, were born outside the country. Toronto, Vancouver, and Calgary have become mosaics of the world, with over 200 languages spoken across Canadian homes. Every year, Canada welcomes approximately 485,000 new permanent residents, the highest intake per capita in the G7. This surge is driven by necessity: an aging population, labor shortages, and a commitment to humanitarian resettlement. Immigration isn't just part of Canada's story, it's the engine driving its future. Yet this transformation brings both triumph and tension. Major cities face housing shortages, with rents in Toronto and Vancouver surpassing $2,700 for a one-bedroom apartment in 2025. Newcomers often struggle to find affordable homes, meaningful jobs, or recognition for foreign credentials. The dream of a better life can feel distant under the weight of high costs and economic uncertainty. Despite this, Canada remains one of the world's most desired destinations. People arrive from India, the Philippines, China, Nigeria, and Iran, seeking peace, opportunity, and dignity. International students now number over 1 million, contributing billions to the economy, but facing their own struggles with rising tuition and exploitation. Immigration has reshaped Canada's streets and skylines. Brampton, Surrey, and Mississauga pulse with cultural vibrancy. Temples beside churches, mosques beside markets. But in the heart of this diversity lies a question whispered in coffee shops and classrooms alike. Is Canada still one nation, or has it become many living side by side? Chapter 3. The Cultural Tides of Change. Walk through any Canadian city and you'll see it. The evolution of culture in real time. Multilingual billboards, international cuisine, hybrid music blending Punjabi beats with hip-hop, and Indigenous artists redefining identity through modern expression. Canada's culture no longer flows from one source. It's 1,000 rivers merging into one vast current. But these rivers sometimes clash. Conversations around national pride, language and belonging have grown louder. In Quebec, debates over secularism and language laws reflect deeper fears of cultural erosion. In the prairies, rural communities worry about being left behind by globalized urban centers. Social media magnifies the tension. Echo chambers amplify division while blurring what it means to be Canadian. In 2024, nearly 72% of Canadians said they believe multiculturalism makes the country stronger, yet a rising 28% feel it weakens social cohesion. The data reveals a delicate balance between admiration and anxiety. The younger generation, born into diversity, often sees Canada not as a nation of differences, but as one of shared opportunity. However, older generations who grew up in a less globalized Canada sometimes see these changes as a departure from what they once knew. The truth lies in between. Canada's identity has never been static. It evolves, adapts and reinvents itself, much like the people who build it. Yet the real challenge is not diversity itself, it's learning how to listen. To see that within every new arrival, every new idea, there's not a threat, but a reflection of Canada's original dream. Chapter 4. When unity meets division, Canada's greatest test isn't at its borders, it's within. The pressures of modern life, rising inequality, and political polarization are testing the limits of national unity. In 2025, income inequality continues to widen. Major urban centers attract the wealth, while remote regions feel forgotten. Provinces like Alberta push back against federal climate policies. Quebec debates autonomy. And Indigenous communities still fight for clean water, justice and recognition promised generations ago. Add to that a housing crisis, with national home prices hovering near $740,000 and many working families priced out of ownership entirely. These economic cracks become cultural ones when frustration turns to blame. Yet amidst division, moments of unity still shine through. During wildfires, Canadians from every background volunteered side by side. During the pandemic, doctors from Syria, India and Ghana became the heroes of hospitals. In small towns and cities, new immigrants open restaurants, teach children, and start businesses that remind Canadians what community truly means. Unity in Canada isn't about everyone being the same. It's about standing together even when we're different. That's the beauty of the Mosaic. It doesn't erase its pieces, it connects them. But the question remains, how long can this connection last if the foundation of affordability, fairness and belonging continues to weaken? Chapter 5. Identity in the Age of Globalization. In today's Canada, identity is both personal and global. A young man in Edmonton may follow Korean pop culture. A woman in Halifax may run a Nigerian fashion business online. A child in Vancouver might speak 3 languages before turning 10. Canada is not a single cultural space. It's a living ecosystem of identities constantly merging and reshaping. But this global identity comes with paradox. As Canadians connect more to the world, national narratives blur. What does Canadian mean when your tastes, values and conversations span continents? Technology accelerates this change. TikTok trends replace town hall talks. Global issues, from Gaza to climate change, spark protests in Canadian streets. People no longer see themselves through one lens of nationality, but through a web of shared global concerns. Meanwhile, Indigenous youth reclaim languages once suppressed, asserting sovereignty and truth. Immigrants celebrate dual heritage with pride. And second-generation Canadians are redefining patriotism, not as waving a flag, but as caring for the land, respecting diversity, and speaking truth to power. In 2025, Canada's identity is a paradox, deeply local, yet powerfully global. It's a flag that flies in many hearts, but also competes with many flags within. Chapter 6. The future of the Canadian mosaic. So where does Canada go from here? The path ahead is uncertain, yet filled with potential. Immigration targets will rise again, projected to reach 500,000 newcomers per year by 2026. Canada's population recently passed 41 million, growing faster than at any time in its history. This growth could bring renewal, if managed with empathy and balance. Canada's future will depend on how well it integrates newcomers while preserving Indigenous sovereignty and cultural truth. It will depend on how cities solve the housing crisis, how youth reclaim belonging, and how leaders bridge not just regions, but hearts. The true test of Canada's identity won't be written in policy documents or political speeches. It will be written in classrooms where children share stories in different accents, in workplaces where cultures collaborate, and in quiet moments when strangers choose kindness over indifference. The mosaic is not broken. It's evolving, stretching to hold new colors, new languages, and new hope. But for it to endure, Canadians must remember the lesson that built this nation. Diversity is not the end of unity. It is its foundation. Because in the end, a mosaic is only beautiful when its pieces stay connected. If this documentary moved you, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Because stories like this aren't just meant to be watched, they're meant to be felt. And together, we'll keep exploring the truths that shape our world.